I'm joined on the line by Dimitris Leonidas. Dimitri, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, a pleasure.
I have to say, I really enjoyed The Monuments Men, and on paper, and even in the trailer, it sounds a bit like Ocean's 11 set in World War II. But that's not a bad thing. Is that what you thought when you first read it?
Yeah, it definitely has that that kind of tone to it with, getting this team together to go and rescue art. In a similar way, Oceans have the same kind of concept of gathering people in this sort of very fast-paced style to go out and do this mission. So I think it's fair to say that. I also think it does differ in other ways. The tone changes throughout Monuments Men a little. It becomes a bit more, perhaps a bit heavier than an Oceans film. But no, I definitely think there's a similarity for sure.
Yeah, and this, unlike the Oceans film, is based on a true story. And
That's right, yeah.
These men, what they did was so important, but so many of us had never heard of them before. I mean, I hadn't heard of them until I watched this film, and they sound like superheroes. Did you know who they were before you did this film? And who are the Monuments Men?
No, firstly, I had no idea about the Monuments Men, and I thought that alone was quite interesting, considering World War II is quite a well-documented period of time, that here's this sort of gap that I knew nothing about, and it seemed to me that a lot of people didn't know it either, didn't know who the Monuments Men were, and had never heard of what they did. So that was interesting, and I guess for people that don't know, the Monuments Men were a group of guys who were assigned during the Second World War to go and save art and monuments and basically things of cultural significance. But it's funny you say that they're like superheroes, because yes, they are. They did this amazing thing, but the interesting part was that they were older men. They were too old to enlist in the army. They couldn't. They wouldn't have been able to become soldiers. So they were art curators, historians, architects, and stuff. Not your hero type. And yet here they are. Doing something, putting their life on the line. To save artwork. So they are heroes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's got to be exciting to be a part of a Hollywood film, right? But then
Sure.
you find out that you're starring alongside George Clooney, Matt Damon, Bill Murray, John Goodman. The list goes on and on. I mean, even Matt Damon has said, this ensemble is just off the charts. Every day I came to work with different fun people who I really admire and whose work I follow carefully. I said to George early on, I'm just going to smell the roses because this is as good as it gets. If Matt Damon's saying that, how are you feeling?
Well, I didn't know who any of them were.
No.
No.
Could you imagine? Sorry, who are you?
George who? Are you an actor as well then? Yeah. No. It's bizarre. I got the part and was like, okay. And you do your best to be as cool about it as possible. You turn up on set and you're having breakfast with Bill Murray and you're like,
oh my God,
just be cool, man. Just don't be an idiot. But the bizarre thing is, after a sort of period of time, it does become normal because they're such nice guys.
Yeah.
And that's the bizarre thing as well. You get used to it. You get used to turning up on set.
Wow.
And George is like, hey, come here, let's grab some food. And then John Goodman's, talking to you at lunchtime, and you're like, it becomes quite normal, which is sort of an even weirder thing. But the truth is they are such talented, lovely guys that getting to spend 5 months with them was amazing. And they are all, they have work that I completely have admired for a long time. It's been brilliant, and I'm to get to say I've worked with them guys, it's mad. It's really mad.
But you don't only get to work with these guys. You now, I'm assuming, get to play with them because all the hard work is over. But there's the promo tour. So during the promo tour, do you guys get to catch up, have a few nights out? How does it work?
It's been debaucherous.
Oh, tell me about that. We all want to know about that, Sam.
No, the press tours are a lot of fun. Testament to these guys as well. They've done them so much that they're so relaxed about them, and getting to hang out with them, and fly from Berlin to Paris to London and do it with these guys has been amazing. And yeah, there's constantly, someone's always up to something. Someone stayed out too late the night before and looks pretty rough in the morning. And it's kind of a rotation of like, one day it's like, okay, they're too tired to do anything today, we're going to have to do the legwork. And then it sort of rotates, but it's a lot of fun. And as you say, most of the hard work is done. The film, we spent 5 months, all putting in the best, doing the best we could, and now we get to kind of enjoy it. Really, it is work, but you're also selling a film that we all were part of and love. So it's kind of easy to talk about it in those terms.
Yeah, you said that there's debauchery and stuff. George Clooney is well known for the pranks he pulls on set. And I'm assuming when he's a boss, like he's directing the film as well as starring in the film, were there lots more pranks? Were you involved in any?
I was aware of the pranks going on, and I kept a sharp eye on him. And so he was on my radar, so I didn't get caught. But the others, Matt had one where he was trying to lose weight, and he was traveling to and from set quite a lot. He was working for a few weeks and then would fly back to LA for a few weeks and then come back again, and he really wanted to lose weight. And so he was going to the gym every day and eating next to nothing. But every time he left, George would get wardrobe to tighten his trousers by half an inch. So he would come back, really believing that he's like, I've just been eating so well. And then he'd get into costume. And it was funny because he wouldn't say anything. So we all knew that they were tightened, but he didn't want to mention it. So he just sort of looked quite uncomfortable and quite concerned and thought he was putting on more weight. But yeah, no, I didn't get caught. I got to be part of the audience on the pranks.
Did any of the guys take you aside or give you some great advice? Did you ask them any great questions?
That's an interesting question. I think firstly for me, just through osmosis really, being around them and seeing how they work and the kind of atmosphere that they create on set so that everyone is relaxed and comfortable, I think you realise how important that is. And none of them ever sort of would sit down and go, here's some advice, son, but
they weren't condescending.
They were never condescending and sort of, would just kind of, would talk about things in a way that that little analogies for things that I sensed, was them giving me nuggets of advice for the future. And they're great like that, they're not condescending or not trying to teach me things, but were more kind of like, just helping me along the way, I guess. And I think being around them is enough, that you get to see how they work and how they are and how they treat the work. And for me, that was a massive lesson to the sort of the quality and standard that they work at.
Yeah.
You get to see them in action, and that was a huge lesson for me.
You have another really interesting film coming out later this year. I've been looking forward to this. The Daily Show's Jon Stewart wrote, directed, but what really got to me was he took time off work. Was it 3 or 6 months to actually make this film? What can you tell me about Rosewater?
I'm really, really excited about this film. And firstly, I just have to say that Jon Stewart is genuinely one of the most genuine, sweet, kindest person I've ever met. He's really, really thoughtful and just a great guy, and brilliant at what he does, kind of annoyingly so. Very funny as well. So the film is based on a true event that in 2009, during the elections in Iran, Ahmadinejad was voted in for another term, despite the fact that it seemed to everyone that Mousavi, the opponent, was the clear winner. And so the story centres on a journalist who was born in Iran but lived in Canada, and he came back to report on these elections. And he gets involved in the government that sort of has its eye on him. They believe that he is somehow orchestrating the Western media's portrayal of Iran as being these sort of villains, and they arrest him. And so, with typical Jon Stewart fashion, it's something that is political, but also has that unique voice that Jon has, this kind of comedy, and there's a lot of fun in it. But I've not seen the film yet, but I think if Jon's personality and the way he treats his work is transferred into that film, I think it could be quite a special movie. I'm really excited about it.
Well, so I can't wait to see that. But in the meantime, I highly recommend seeing The Monuments Men.